Dota is a funny thing. After I made my Treant Protector guide that you can check out here, Brax himself messaged me on Twitter talking about his views on the future of the meta and how being able to stop pushes are now important. And that made me think, well, if players are forced to pick Ursas, Clinxes, and Rickies to fight relatively early because of the threat of the Lycan's Beastmaster pushes, what happens if more people in your team start picking Sand King and Treant to protect your team from the pushes? Or what if the enemy team does that? What happens to the meta? Well, hold and behold, I came across this 23 Savage game where he absolutely crushes as Alchemist, and this hero is one people theorized about since the beginning of the patch because unlike everyone else and Bounty Hunter, he is less affected by the reduction of resources in the map. But he's terrible versus some offlaners like Beastmaster, and does take a fair amount of time to get online if he doesn't get like a reasonably good lane. But in this game, he had the chance to pick after seeing a Sand King. A hero that is annoying in lane, but Sand King cannot really pressure the map the same way a Beastmaster does. In terms of build, Radiance is still by far the best first item on the hero, and you might be thinking about Battle Fury, and yeah, Battle Fury is a great farming item with cheaper components and a better price. But Radiance is incredible on Alchemist for a ton of reasons. It makes up for his bad armor because of the mischance, and it's also an easier item to use in fights. Your hero has high move speed, big HP pool, and so he can do more damage reliably with it. For Battle Fury Alch to do damage in teamfights, you need a couple of points in your stun, and for your hero to farm, you don't really need your stun, so you need to be about level 13 and 14 to do reliable damage, whereas with Radiance, which you can usually pick at level 10, when you're playing safe lane, you're ready to fight much earlier, even though the item is more expensive. Since we're still talking about builds, why the hell did 23 Savage purchase Treads instead of Phase Boots if I just said Alchemist armor is awful? Well, Phase Boots is not as good as it used to be, and on top of that, Alchemist mana regen got gutted. I'm not saying Phase Boots is bad on Alchemist. Now, what I'm saying is, in this game, versus only one physical damage dealer and a venomancer, Sand King Ember, having the two bracers really helps with the HP and magic resistance, and you cannot really buy a soul ring and two bracers since your slots get fucked really fast, so Treads is actually a great addition here. Not only Strength Treads makes you super tanky versus magic damage, you can also Tread switch to make better use of your mana, and also you get 2 armor when you Tread switch to agility. This allows you to keep a higher HP percentage as your jungle, and it only decreases your jungle DPS in about 4% from strength to agility, so it's definitely a worthwhile price to pay. Even with Tread switching though, 23 Savage bought a reasonable amount of clarity, so be aware of that. Now, we have to talk about Sange in Heaven's Halberd versus Venomancer and heroes that build Spirit Vessel in general. This footage is from another game, but watch it. The HP regen increase from Halberd as well as the disarm makes the item really good against Venomancer and Ursa. Just watch this clip where after the passive from Venomancer and the Vessel, Alch has 8 HP regen, but as soon as his Sange gets ready, it shoots back to 23. So in this case, the item by itself increases the HP regen during the ult almost 3 times, and the item is literally the reason he survives that fight. So I think it's pretty easy to showcase why Sange and thus Halberd are so good in this game and versus Spirit Vessel. It's, you know, an item that makes you tankier, gives you evasion. It's cheaper than BKB, but at the same time, it's something that's going to scale a little bit more than that item. One thing you have to be careful about when playing versus Venomancer or other Vessel carriers is, if you don't have BKB, you gotta be careful about when you use your ult, especially before the Vessel charge is used because you can dispel that. In this fight, he's aware the Venomancer doesn't have a charge, and so he can pop the ult straight up and get into the fight. Know that even though he could burst the Venomancer easily, he had Blade Mail and he's already fighting with much less HP regen than normal. This, at the end of the day, gives him the chance to cancel Epicenter with this stun, and by kiting Radiant to his tower instead of just committing, he takes a great fight. That's one thing people forget about Alchemist. Sometimes they just want to stun people and hit, but one of the advantages of this hero is actually draw on fights, because you have a lot of HP regen that you can milk, you know, with a 20-30 second fight instead of just like trying to kill someone really early. Your HP regen is probably not going to be enough, especially when they already have Vessel, when they already have a Venomancer that is as farmed as this one. The item choice 23 Savage goes for after AC is Abyssal Blade. What about BKB? Maybe you're thinking that. There's Searing Chains, there's a Tiny, there's a Sand King, and you know, while you're right about BKB being okay versus those things, BKB is an item that, you know, against mobile heroes is just not the greatest because they can kite you. You don't want to BKB against an Avalanche or Chains, and even if you do, you know, Sand King is mobile enough. He can ult after your BKB is over. Abyssal Blade offers some mobility even during the Chains, so in a way it's a poor man's BKB, but it's also more damage, more lockdown, which Alk has the luxury to go for in games he's winning fights. It also works wonders with your stun, since you can pre-pop the stun to then Abyssal into Concoction, just locking people down, just solo killing most heroes. Another thing to mention is that usually Savage gets the HP talent instead of the damage, but in this game, since he's yet to die, he felt safe to play like this, and even after so many nerfs to this talent, it can still be pretty great on a hero with so much minus armor and so much attack speed. But you know, what about a game with a different offlaner? In this game, we have a pretty old school combination in the offlane, Bane Mirana and a Pangolier. They don't tri-lane for the entire game, but not sure if you guys know about this, but Bane is the highest win rate position 5 by a huge margin. Mirana is another hero with a huge win rate across a ton of different roles, but all of these three heroes are pretty mediocre at one thing, and that is forcing towers, and oops, once again we see an Alchemist pick. Even still, the lane is hard, and he dies once when the lane pushes and Lion goes for a pull. It's worth noting that in this game he wanted to get Battle Fury, since he can easily deal with Nature's Prophet and the Lycan minions, but as we talked about, the item ends up being a little greedier since you have to farm more to get online, and he changes his mind into Radiance after he dies again. He gets a pretty late Radiance in this game since he died a lot thanks to the Dire pressure, but as soon as it's up, you can see how hard it is for Dire to engage on him, but even still, he kept being pressured. The way to deal with aggressive pushing, especially when you're having a bad game, is split push. Even though his tier 2 tower was under attack bottom, he stopped straight up, and that's because he needs more resources to take those fights, and unless his tier 3 tower was under attack, he's supposed to do what he's doing right now. The beauty of Alk, though, is that he needs way less time than other heroes to scale up. So yeah, they lose their tier 2 tower, but in about a minute he farms 1.3k gold while he pressure top, and with the lane pushed, he eventually forces someone there. This is why split pushing is so good. He sees the Lycan minions going top, and Dire kinda tries to start a fight at the same time, and not only this is great, since 23 Savage is not the one being initiated, which is usually how we want to start fights with Alchemist in the first place, he knows they have the numbers advantage, pretty good TP, pretty good fight. Finally, we have the hardest game 23 Savage played. He realizes Radiant wanted to lane Ursa versus him in the safe lane, so he runs down. Ursa and Venomancer then change lanes by walking, only to later TP top and have Radiant swap one more time. It's no surprise Ursa is a great hero versus Alchemist in lane. Even with the level advantage Alchemist was able to amass thanks to Ursa missing creep waves following Alchemist, he ended up taking a lot of harass and even dying. This is another game where armor is not that important, and so Treads is the boots of choice for Savage. Another small benefit of going Treads against an OD lineup is the ability to tank more Eclipse damage. Watch how 23 Savage plays most of this fight with Intelligence Treads on, and takes almost no damage from the ability. This is a pretty old trick that used to be more effective with the old version of OD ult. PAs and Slarks, even when Phase Boots was amazing, would buy Treads instead of Phase versus OD, but it's still a cool thing you can do, it's not as effective. The beauty he gets is pretty similar to the other games, with Assault being done before BKB. You might think it's a little risky to go AC instead of BKB, and while they are behind, BKB is usually the type of item you get on Alchemist as a 4th or 5th item, or when you just have to defend your base, and so BKB is kind of like your last resort, and that was not the case. They were not being completely stomped. AC not only makes everything about Alk better, since it fixes his low armor and makes Concoction deal more damage, also helps with one big problem this hero has. His tower damage is pretty meh, especially because after most fights, you have no ult and you attack pretty slowly. AC, unlike BKB, allows you to win fights and make them count for something afterwards.
Give me like I'm so... Oh my god, I'm so fucking unlucky!
Do you feel like this playing Dota sometimes? Losing can be really frustrating, especially when you are to blame. What if there was a way to pick heroes and playstyles so good and so fresh in the meta that no one can counter you? Follow my weekly easy MMR meta guide on Patreon to start abusing strategies I'm yet to make a guide of. By selecting this Patreon tier, you will have access to the freshest ideas I'm yet to make a video of, or ideas that are really good but I don't think make a good video but are still important. This will give you an edge versus any player in your brackets. The meta guide is available every Thursday, and if you join before this Thursday, you will get the chance to vote on a hero you want a guide of. Guys, thank you a lot for watching, commenting, and subscribing. If you want a more premium experience than my unreleased meta guides, you can DM me on Twitter to get the rates for my coaching. If you started playing Dota because of COVID-19 or because of the compendium, check our Discord channel. There is a ton of cool people there, and you might find a lane partner to play with you if you have anxiety playing ranked by yourself. Finally, if you want to help the channel but you don't really care about the product I'm selling, you can find other tiers and other rewards and see if any of them is interesting to you. And finally, if you want to see me streaming, you can follow me on Twitch. Thank you a lot, guys. Have a good one. Bye.